Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed, let me inform a short outline of our sessions. I promise this session is going to be very straightforward. First, I will invite Ambassador Chomba and Mr. Brignoni to share their informations, and both will be given approximately 10 minutes. And then I will invite Mr. Reza to share his experience so far in exporting Indonesia's finest coffee to some countries, and also all information related to his experience. And after the three speakers, we will go through Q&A sessions for about 45 minutes. And then we go to wrap-up sessions where I will invite again all speakers to give 2 minutes closing or wrapping up perspective based on our discussions. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, now we start with Ambassador Olivier Chomba, who is, if I may reveal a little bit of his bio, that Ambassador Chomba is very familiar to Indonesia. 24 years ago, after his post in London, he was apparently the second counselor at the French embassy in Jakarta.
Konselor pertama.
Oh, konselor
pertama, tidak second.
Oh, baik, kami ulangi, konselor pertama at the French embassy in Jakarta from 1997 to 2000. This must be during our one of most exciting periods in Indonesia's political history. After being posted in Jakarta, Ambassador Chomba has been in various positions both in Paris and also overseas, including as a Consul General in London in 2012 to 2015. Ambassador Chomba earned 3 honors from his government: Knight of National Order of Merit, Knight of National Order of the Legion of Honor, and a member of the Victorian Order. Lastly, other than a frequent speaker in English, Urdu, and Hindi, Pak Dubes ternyata sangat fasih berbicara di bahasa Indonesia. Pak Dubes, time and screen is yours. Pak Dubes masih belum di-unmute, silakan.
Maaf, saya lupa. No, I was saying that to preserve your ears, I will not speak bahasa Indonesia karena bahasa Indonesia saya kurang bagus. When I was invited by Kemlu to talk about coffee, I realized once again how nice it is to be an ambassador, because you have to learn subjects which you don't know really about. And coffee is quite like that for me. I like coffee, but I'm not an expert on coffee. So I did my homework, and what I found was very interesting. Coffee is, but I'm talking to people who know about coffee, but then excuse me if you know already what I'm going to say. But coffee is one of the most used commodity in terms of trade. It's even more important in terms of trade than oil. So you can imagine the importance of the subject. And we drink every minute 2.3 million cups in the world per minute. So it is indeed something very important economically, but I think it is very important culturally also. France, which is a medium-sized country, even small-sized country if you compare to Indonesia, is nevertheless the 7th market for coffee in the world, behind Brazil, United States, Germany, Indonesia, Japan, and Italy. And this market is growing. For the moment, we are consuming 3.4 kilograms of coffee per head per year. And this market is approximately, it's over 9 billion euros per year, with a growth which is between 2 and 3% per year. And this growth is very active, and the coffee market in France is really a very active market. In France, coffee is quite a cultural thing also. Maybe, I don't know if you know, but in the French language, coffee means, of course, the coffee you drink, but it designates all the places where you can eat light lunches, have coffee, have a beer, a juice, or whatever. So coffee is not only a word for the coffee itself, but for places, whether in the countryside or in cities. The coffee market in France is a growing market for several reasons. I think first, the French consumers, and I'm sure many are it's the case in many other countries, the French consumers are more and more interested by higher quality coffee. And this discovery of high quality coffee, new coffee, is making the market grow. I mean, when I was a young kid, coffee, you drank coffee, but you didn't bother about the origins of the coffee. You bother only, is it good coffee or bad coffee? Now, it's much more intellectual as an approach. You discover coffees, different tastes, and so it is giving the market a very big impetus. Another factor for the growing market is now it's quicker and easier to drink coffee at home with all the capsule system, which allows you to discover all the coffees of the world without being forced to grind it and to have big machines to taste it. Because once again, 30 years ago, if you wanted a very nice espresso, a strong coffee, you had to go outside in restaurants or in coffee shops. It was very difficult to have it at your home. But now anyone can drink very interesting coffee at home. So that's also one of the reasons why the market is growing. 43% of the French public is ready to pay more for better quality and for sustainable coffee. I think the bio aspect, the sustainable aspect, is also very important now in the coffee trade. We have in France more than 40 players on the coffee market, with 6 very large companies like Nestlé, Lavazza, Carte Noire, Malongo, Café Richard, and other more smaller companies. The COVID crisis showed a very good resilience of the coffee trade in France, because the consumption at home compensated the restaurant closures, and the e-commerce, which was already important, with COVID-19 in all commodities, of course, increased. But for coffee, it helped to make the market grow. And I think it will continue that way. About France market and Indonesia's potential. France is the 20th partner of Indonesia for coffee trade, but is ranking at the 5th place among Europeans. It is, I discovered, well, I knew it, but I took some information. We have a very strong and ancient cooperation between Indonesian partners and our research center, which is called CIRAD, the Institute Center for Research in Agriculture and Development, which is working, it's been more than 20 years, with ICCRE since 2001, about the creation and strengthening of the notion of protection of geographical indication. France was a pioneer in the creation of geographical indication, not only in coffee, of course, but in many, many products we have in France, for wines, for cheese, for meats, for many, many, many things. And we worked closely, and we were quite instrumental in the creation of the Kopi Arabica Kintamani Bali, which is a geographical indication, very, I think, important. Nowadays, and it will increase in the next decade, you will not buy just coffee, you will buy a certain coffee, or even not only one certain coffee, but many kinds of coffees. So having a geographical indication, a protected geographical indication, is something which is important in terms of sustainable certification, but it's also very important for the public. And now, just buying coffee for, you don't know what kind of coffee it is, it's not enough. People are getting more difficult to satisfy, and they want to know more about their coffee, and they want to explore. And that's a very good thing, I think, for Indonesia, because you have a huge margin of progression. In France, coffees from Africa, coffees from South America, Colombian coffee, it's ringing a bell. Indonesian coffee is not known enough for the moment. So my feeling is that it is with those geographical indication, those protected geographical indication, that Indonesia will be able to get a bigger share of the French market. Because I talked about the Kopi Arabica Kintamani, but you have many other kind of very good coffees in Gayo, Flores, Toraja, which are very potentially interesting for consumers in France and, of course, in Europe. And your label of geographical origin is very important in that matter. Of course, the only thing I can say is that you should work more on that. And of course, but it's a reality for many things, you have to work even more on your communication. Indonesian coffee is so good that I think that when people will taste it, they will like it and they will buy it. But they have to know about it. They have to discover it. There are some very good initiatives made by the Indonesian embassy in Paris. There's an Indonesian shop where you can find Indonesian products, but you have to be bigger. You have to go. You have to do more publicity to present the coffee of Indonesia. But as I said, your margin is huge compared to what you are selling now. You can sell many more, but I think the main way is the protected geographical indication. French people are now very, very sensitive to that. And once you present your offer, I think your potential is huge. That's all I had to say, and I'll be very happy to answer questions if there are. And I think it's my Italian colleague who will speak next, and Italy is also the country for coffee. And in France, when you ask for a coffee, you take the Italian word espresso. You don't say, I want a coffee, you say, I want an espresso. So I'm sure he'll have many things to say. Terima kasih banyak.
Terima kasih, merci beaucoup, Pak Dubes. Very important and valuable informations. And you mentioned a lot about statistics, 2.3 million cups per minute that people drink coffee. And also you mentioned about the cultural perspective that for French people that coffee means not only drinking coffee, but it also represents different part of social activity of the people. And also you mentioned a little bit about the cooperations between Indonesia and the Center of Research in relations to the creation of protection of geographical indications, which is very important for us in terms of increasing of our bilateral trade in terms of in the product of coffee. And also you mentioned the encouraging message that the potential is really huge that Indonesia have to take up for the next few times in the future. And this is why we are very keen to host this event. We will come back to you, Pak Dubes, with the Q&A, but now allow me to invite Mr. Giovanni Brignone, Chargé d'Affaires of the Embassy of Italy. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, prior to his post in Jakarta, Mr. Brignone has been serving at various Italian missions overseas. He used to be posted in Beijing, China, in Lisbon, Portugal, as well as he spent his career in Pretoria, South Africa. Mr. Brignone was the Chief of Staff to the Under Secretary for Foreign Affairs in starting from July 2012. And also he was accorded the honorific title of Knight of the Order of Merit of the Italian Republic in 2017. Mr. Brignone is now in Jakarta since August 2018 as the head of economic and commercial sections, as well as the deputy chief of missions. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today in his third anniversary of being posted in this beautiful country of Indonesia, Mr. Brignone will speak at his capacity as the Chargé d'Affaires of the Embassy of Italy in Jakarta. And before I give him the screen, allow me to congratulate the winning of Italy at the Euro 2020. Yeah. Mr. Brignone, congratulations, and the screen is yours.
Thank you, Paola, and thanks to Kemlu for giving me this opportunity to talk about the relevance of coffee in Italy. I have prepared a few basic slides to accompany my presentation. And first of all, I would like to say a few words about coffee history in Italy and the culture of coffee in Italy. So even though Italy itself doesn't actually grow or produce any green coffee commercially, the country is widely considered as the cradle of coffee culture in Europe. And the Italian way of drinking coffee has been exported and imitated in every corner of the world. Our coffee traditions have ancient roots. Coffee was first cultivated in Ethiopia and later introduced to Europe through the Ottoman Empire. Venice, a port city, became one of the first European cities to regularly trade for coffee, and in Venice we saw the appearance of the first Italian coffee houses towards the end of the 17th century. You can see in the picture some of these very ancient cafes in Italy. In Italy's original coffee houses, coffee was usually brewed Turkish style, boiled with spices and sugar in a heated pot. This, however, took several minutes to prepare, and as demand for coffee grew, so did the need for a faster, more efficient brewing system. A revolution was about to happen that would change forever the way coffee is enjoyed in Italy, and that would actually become synonymous with Italian coffee. Of course, I'm talking about the invention of espresso. Espresso is a coffee brewing method in which pressurization is used to produce a concentrated form of coffee. Many consider espresso to be the purest form of coffee because the quick process does the least damage to coffee grounds. It lets coffee retain the complex, rich flavor of the grounds without burning them or watering them down. The first iteration of the coffee machine was invented in 1884 by Angelo Moriondo, a Turin-based inventor. However, this machine was very bulky. It used 1.5 bars of steam-powered pressure to push water through the coffee grounds, and it could only produce large vats of coffee and not individual cups. So a few years later, in the early 1900s, Milan-based inventors Bezzerra and Pavoni reworked this machine and perfected it. And they used steam and 2 bars of pressure to brew espresso in less than 30 seconds. And they also added the pressure release valve, making brewing safer and faster for baristas, and the steam wand for frothing milk. With the name La Pavoni, the product was introduced in the market in 1906, and with it, the term espresso became familiar to the public. However, this system, though efficient, gave coffee a burnt taste. Patents by Francesco Illy and Achille Gaggia in the mid-1930s helped define what good espresso should be, using high-pressured water instead of steam, resulting in a richer, unburnt brew. In 1938, Gaggia's small, efficient, seamless coffee machine took pressurization to a new level, using up to 10 bars to produce truly concentrated espresso, what is now recognized as a modern true espresso. In addition to the increased concentration, the high pressure gave espresso is now signature crema, the naturally occurring coffee foam that forms a top espresso. Then in 1961, the Faema E61 came to the market. And this machine basically used pressure, water temperature, and water amounts that could be perfectly controlled for a flawless, consistent cup of espresso every time. Still, a staple of coffee's popularity in Italy remained the possibility to easily prepare the beverage at home. For most of the 19th century and early 20th century, this was done by means of the Neapolitan flip coffee pots on the left side of the screen. And it was a drip brew coffee maker for the stove top that doesn't use the pressure of steam to force the water through the coffee, relying instead on gravity. It was invented in 1819 by a Frenchman named Maurice, but it became hugely popular in Italy until in 1933, inventor Alfonso Bialetti brought espresso to Italian homes with the Mocha Express. The Mocha Express, the original Mocha pot, is an aluminium stovetop espresso pot with a recognizable octagonal base and top. The base holds the water, and when heated, steam pushes through a filter that holds the coffee grounds, releasing espresso into the top of the pot. Although the Mocha doesn't technically make espresso, as it uses only 1.5 bars of pressure, but still it makes a reliably delicious unburnt dark coffee to be drank at everybody's home. But let's now take a look at how Italians like to drink their coffee. Of course, we have the basic espresso, or for Italians, simply un caffè. It can be drunk at any hour of the day, although the most usual occasions are the morning and after the main meals. Typical morning drinks are also the caffè macchiato, an espresso stained or spotted with a tiny froth of milk and served in a demi-tasse cup. The cappuccino, equal parts espresso, steamed milk, and foamed milk. Caffè latte, espresso with more steamed milk and less foam, or latte macchiato, steamed milk marked with a splash of espresso. There are, of course, other ways to drink your coffee in Italy, like caffè corretto, for example, which is an espresso corrected with a splash of alcohol, either grappa or sambuca. Caffè lungo, an espresso brewed for a slightly longer time. Or caffè americano, which is espresso diluted with plenty of hot water. The list actually goes on, and always new variants of the beverage are created in accordance with the creativity and ingenuity of the thousands of baristas applying their craft all over Italy. Now, let's take a very quick look at the Italian coffee market. Italy is the third major importer of green coffee beans worldwide, right after the US and Germany. In 2020, it imported around 9.4 million 60 kilogram coffee grain sacks, minus 8% compared to 2019. Of these, roughly 60% were Arabica and 40% Robusta. Over the 2015-2019 period, Indonesia has been the fifth supplier to the Italian market with its Robusta coffees, providing 6.12% of the total imported volume. Italy is also one of the main exporters of toasted coffee. In 2020, it sold 4.9 million green coffee equivalent sacks. Of course, when coffee is toasted, it loses around 20% of its mass. Italy's large roasting industry, made up of over 800 companies, consumes 98% of the country's green coffee imports, the other 2% being re-exported. Italy is Europe's second largest roasted coffee exporter at 221,000 tons in 2018, making up 22% of the entire European market. Italy's main export destinations are Germany, 20%, France, 9.5%, and the UK, 5.9%. Italy is also the third largest coffee consuming country in Europe, with a per capita consumption of about 6 kilograms per year. Most coffee is consumed at home, 87%, but 73% of coffee consumers also drink coffee out of home. Overall, coffee bars are the preferred place for out-of-home consumption among Italians, at 72%, followed by the workplace, 48%. Independent coffee bars still make approximately 90% of the Italian coffee market, but large coffee chains are gaining ground also in Italy. About the current situation of the market, we have to say that unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, also the coffee market has been badly hit in 2020. Which also marked a radical change in consumption due to the health crisis with its stronger repercussions. The turnover of Italian coffee roasters contracted by 8.6% for an estimated value of 337 million euros. Consumption outside the home decreased with strong repercussions, especially in consumptions at bars and restaurants, practically zeroed during the first lockdown. The losses in turnover recorded by roasters in the HoReCa channel in 2020 amounted to 40%, and the vending OCS channel also fell by 50%. The only channel that did not suffer in 2020 is the traditional retail and e-commerce channel. The first growing in value by 10.3%, while the second with rates close to 50%, but worth, unfortunately, less than 2% of the total retail. As an outlook, the two segments appear to be particularly promising in the Italian coffee market. The first one is the single-use pods and capsules for home consumptions, whose sales have gone up by respectively 26.8% and 18.2% in 2020. The other segment, which is basically a niche, but that could be extremely interesting for Indonesian exporters, is the special and organic coffees niche, whose numbers have been constantly on the up since 2017. More and more people in Italy strive to find special brands of coffee that they can mix at home and in order to brew their own coffee. And I think this could be very interesting for Indonesia. I would like to say the last few words about the import procedures for coffee into Italy, which are basically the same for any European Union country, as we share a common market. Rules from the EU member countries regarding the import of food products are mostly harmonized. And this is why the producers who wish to see their coffee beans reach, for example, the typical Roman bars, can also, without undue delay, have their products sold in Paris, Frankfurt, or Barcelona. And we see that the European Union accounts for 44% of global coffee consumptions, and it's the most important market in the world for coffee. The EU has standardized rules for importing the product, and the consumption is pretty high in countries like Germany, France, Italy, and the UK, that used to be part of the EU as well. What else can I say that without being too long, that the requirements for exporting to the European Union basically fall into two categories. First, we have the EU sanitary and safety requirements, and then we have the EU labeling rules. That means that the products, the coffee that is imported into Italy must respect a few rules, such as the name under which the product is sold. The EU says that unless specific EU or national provisions apply, the name should be a customary name or a description. A trademark, brand name, or fancy name may be used, but in addition to the generic name. Then, of course, the list of ingredients, including additives. Then the date of expiry, the name of business name and address of the manufacturer, packager, or seller established in the EU, the place of origins or provenance, where its omission could be misleading for consumers, the spatial conditions for storage or use, and the lot marking. Finally, there are also some certain specific rules regulating the labeling of different types of coffee, like could be, for instance, coffee extract, soluble coffee, instant coffee, or decaf coffee. To give an example, the term concentrated may only appear on the label if the coffee base dry matter content is more than 25% by weight. Or the term decaffeinated must appear if the anhydrous caffeine content doesn't exceed 0.3% by weight of the coffee-based dry matter. This information must also be visible in the same field of the label as the sales description. This is basically an overview of what the coffee market is in Italy, what are the coffee drinking habits of Italian, and what could be some opportunities for Indonesian coffee producers. I hope to have been comprehensive, and again, thanks a lot for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Brignoni. Wow, I have to say wow, because preparing for this event makes together with colleagues makes me a little bit nervous last night. So I wasn't having a really good sleep because of that nervousness. But now with this presentation from Ambassador Chomber and also the historical perspective, which is really amazing, given by Mr. Brignone, along with the potential markets for Indonesian coffee products, makes me awake. And I was hoping that one day all of us here will be able to travel to Paris and also to Rome. In Paris, enjoying the football match between PSG versus Monaco, or in Rome, enjoying Lazio versus Roma in Rome, with sipping Indonesian coffee exported by Indonesian exporters to that country. So with that, I will go to the next presenters, which is Mr. Reza Fabianus. I was about to read his bio, but then he makes my jobs very easy because he put his bio in the chat box of this Zoom sessions. So rather than wasting time of it, reread that information, I would rather give the proportion of our time to Mr. Reza to present his information related to his experience and also any ideas related to the exporting Indonesian product, coffee product to Europe. Mr. Reza, time and screen is yours.
Greetings from the island of paradise from Bali. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Bonjour, Buongiorno, Goedemorgen. Selamat pagi semuanya. I'll start with a drinking from Kintamani Coffee. Because it should start from coffee, right? Respected our Director for European Affairs, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, Pak Ida Bagus Made Bimantara, which I usually mention Blisade. I would like to thank you so much for this honored opportunity to join this ambassador talk. His Excellency, Mr. Olivier Chambard, Ambassador of the Republic of France, His Excellency, Mr. Giovanni, Charge d'Affaires of the Italian Republic, previous MC, Pak Hermanus, thank you so much for the communication during, before the session. Pak Moderator, Pak Al-Aula, terima kasih, all participants. To me, this is a very honorable and how is it like best time for coffee to have the opportunity for discussion. Short introduction. My name is Reza Fabianus. I started, let's say, my career in Indonesia when I came back from the Netherlands. So again, European is something, West European, the Netherlands, France, Italy is something, is in my body, is in my life. When I came back from the Netherlands for my master degree, I joined for my, I can say, my career as expert staff in the Minister of Cooperative and Small and Medium Enterprises of the Republic of Indonesia. And then there was important task in Koperasi. Then I get more into the technical things in Koperasi, in Smesco building, which is it's not only about coffee, because we are talking about small medium enterprises, which is why I now come to the topic of coffee, because there is a data that I really would like to validate about 7 million of coffee smallholders across Indonesia. So my current program, my current business, my current project right now is something to do with Indonesian coffee as the CEO of PT Coop Kopi Indonesia. And of course, I would like also to thank to the Minister of Foreign Affairs during last 3 years, which facilitate the business in the bilateral talks within some countries in the West European. And yeah, this is something to do annually to the Director of European Affairs, who is really supporting us in the business. And I would like to comment on the recent project that is already mentioned earlier from His Excellency, Ambassador of the Republic of France. Right now, we are doing the revitalization of what we call MPIG, of Kopi Arabica Kintamani Bali, with the organization, which has been mentioned from His Excellency, Shiran. Now we are doing the project, and since 10 years ago, I believe, I visited the cafe. I really can understand when we are talking about café in the French word, it means, a place that we drink coffee, we fell in love, we eat croissants. So yeah. So, and then I've been in Venice, I've been in Venezia, I visited which I know the first cafe in Italy, I believe, Cafe Florian. I don't know, I think it's 2002 something. See the couple with the gondola, drinking coffee. So I believe there is a big opportunity in the sense of Indonesian and the European markets on the issue of the historical, the culture, and also I've been mentioned about the presence of the Netherlands ambassador. So it's also something very important that the history of Indonesian coffee is come from the era of VOC. It's back to 16,000, I believe. And yes, when we drink espresso, of course we are connected with Italian. Even there is some terms on the roasting of the coffee, which is Italian dark roast, French roast. So I believe this is a very great session, talking about how we could promote, how we could sell our Indonesian coffee. And it is right, I would like to start with the backbone of Coop Coffee. It's already mentioned that coffee is one of the biggest commodity, and everyone in the world drinks coffee, so it's a huge potential. And when we are talking about the European, more specific, French market, Italian market, there's a very big market. Even right now, I'm in Bali. Yeah, you are right. Coffee is a big, big topic. Of course, we know this right now. COVID-19 is something topic that worldwide is concerned, but we have quite a local joke for all participants, Indonesian participants, that in Bali we are not really care much about coffee. We are more concerned with kopi. So no coffee, but it's more kopi. So yeah, I just came back from Kintamani yesterday with the farmers. So we believe right now we concerned with what are happening in worldwide. But talking about coffee, it is a really big market, big export value, big export amount. But my concern, coffee concern, is what about the farmers? What about the producer? What about the smallholders? Do they get the big portion of this big business? That is something that we concern. And I think it's really best time that I also would like to share, and I also would like to send best regards from our partners, Shirat partner, Mr. Alang Rival. He has just came back from Kintamani, and his best regard because Alang Rival knows this session. He said to me as a friend, like, Reza, if August 3rd you will see my ambassador, send the regards. And of course, this is the opportunity also that we would like to thank you for the real presence of the bilateral works between Indonesia and France, because as it is mentioned by His Excellency, that the GI in Indonesia, which is Kopi Arabica Kintamani, is the first certified GI, is initiated by France, by Sirat, and it's been more than 12 years ago. And with ICRI, the president of our Indonesian Coffee and Cacao Research Institution. But I would like to share a kind of fact that the GI is something not really benefits the farmers. And this is what we are doing right now, the revitalization project. In the next 3 years, we started actually by last 2020, but during the pandemic we cannot do much, and now we are doing more works during this 2021. And Alang Rival, the regional director of the Shirat, that has again been mentioned by His Excellency, has been twice visited Kintamani. So yesterday was his last day in the second trip, and he will be back in November. And that is something that we are now working on. And if I may, to show some slide, I'm taking my guy here, Raymond, to share my short presentation. So what we are concerned, again, it's about the smallholders, the producers, because then we can really assure that the coffee is GI origin based. This is what we are doing, even before the information from our director, from Pak Director, about the opportunity to share on the ambassador's talk. Coop Coffee is doing what we call coffee trade, tourism, tour and investment. And yes, we are doing with Sirat. And this presentation is something that I would like to share in this ambassador talk for the European coffee market. The next slide is about what we are concerned in what we call the sustainable coffee business. Second slide, please. And it's called we call it 3T, 3T. So it's about the trust, transparent, and traceability. And next, I just would like to show the data from the ITC in Geneva, like the slide, huge coffee consumer market, really big amount of money. But again, the question is, fourth slide. Next slide. The question is about how about the Indonesian coffee farmers? I mean, the big money goes to the trader. How about the Indonesian coffee farmers? This is what Coffee also doing with the presence of IDH NGO from the Dutch organization about mapping the income gap of the living of the Indonesian coffee farmers. So just a quick slides about vision and mission of COP Indonesia. And then again, next is about who we are, focusing in the COP Coffee, 7 board members, and then more into the vision and mission of COP Coffee. Next, yeah, 8th slide about our vision is more on the improving the coffee farmers' wealth in cooperative basis. And then of course, we are see the value chains of the coffee trading from the farmers, and then traders, roaster, to the end of the consumers. Next, about the SDGs goal that we concern, some of the SDGs, and then the coffee GI. This is what His Excellency talk about, and this is something that we and the French institution Sirat really concerned into the next of 2023. We are talking about the coffee GI revitalization. Next. Up to now, we have 35. Pardon me, it's still 31 because the update of the certification of the GI is quite updated. Now it's 35 IG Kopi Indonesia with the fact and figures. 80% is still Robusta coffee Indonesia, and the rest is Arabica coffee. But we are now concerned in the Arabica coffee. Next slide is about some photos. Our program with the Sirat, Centre de Coopération Internationale en Recherche Agronomique pour la Développement. This is the visitation of Alain Rival, and I also had a chance to visit the Sirat head office in Montpellier, France, last 2019. And then I also would like to share about the historian of Indonesian coffee, tracking back to VOC era. And then this is something that our timeline 2021, we concern, next slide, we concern with our business plan about, of course, the coffee trading, export market, European is always our concern. And then also we are starting to open the business on the coffee trip to origin. So it's more like taking our buyers to the experience to visit the smallholders coffee trees. This year we are focusing with Bali Arabica Kintamani tour and Aceh Arabica Gayo tour. And then also something about investment for specific specialty beans. Of course, since our project is now focusing on the MPIK Kopi Arabica Kintamani Bali, we concern with the GI of Kintamani beans. Then also I would like to share about our what we call the big data, because when we are talking about transparency, when we are talking about trust, traceability, we also need to share the real data. And then this is something what we are partnership with the Universitas Gadjah Mada and Subagro University also in Montpellier to create a kind of an online data system, which we call Smart Coffee Enterprise Support System. So like the potential buyers or potential investor can just click to the, I would like to focus in the Bali Island, that people just can click and see that His Excellency pardon to inform that yes, the Kintamani Bali Kopi Arabica is the first GI certified that is initiated with Syirat. Then now Bali has 2 GI coffee, which is the second is the Kopi Robusta Pupuan. So yeah, we can click, for example, on the Gayo and then on Aceh province, and then we can see there are Aceh Gayo GI, which consists of 61 kelompok, etc., etc. We can try, let's say, it's also well known of Toraja in South Sulawesi. We can click that there are 2 GI. So yeah, that is something that we concern right now. And next, I would like to mention also about the export to the French coffee company in La Rochelle, Merling, Legal, and then the Dutch coffee company, Dernhauer, JDA, Mocador, and Italy. There's a beautiful photo maybe that I can share to Mr. Giovanni. I've visited La Vassa Museum of also last 2019. We learned much in Torino. Yeah, this is something that we study about the origin, historical coffee in the city, and we drink the real espresso lavazza in the museum. Really good. Okay, last is about, you're right, mostly when we are talking about Colombian coffee, Brazilian coffee is something that just in mind, and our last project is about to brand with Ogilvy to make a branding of Indonesia, the Coffee Republic. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I leave it back to Pak Aula.
Terima kasih, Pak Reza. This is really eye-openers presentations because a lot has been done by Pak Reza, and I believe you can inspire all of us in these sessions to do something even bigger for our trade export, for our coffee export to Europe. Pak Dubes, Mr. Brignone, and also Pak Reza, we have 3 presenters. We have had our 3 presenters presenting their informations, and we will now go to our next agenda for Q&A. We have invited all participants to list their name for any questions they want to extend to all the panelists. While waiting for that, allow me to have one very simple questions for Pak Reza, and then I wish Pak Dubes Chomba and also Mr. Brignone to respond on that. The question for Pak Reza is, what has been the most difficult parts based on your experience in exporting coffee to Europe?
To me, it's about the producers. There's a lot of opportunity. I mean, the presence of our Indonesian embassy in specific countries in Europe, even specific trade attaché, and the trust of the Indonesian coffee, specifically when we are talking about Java coffee, Kintamani coffee, many buyers. The difficult part is about to manage the farmers. Because so many players, and one more thing, it's about the financing access. because for the small farmers, smallholder farmers, I'm talking about SMEs, smallholder farmers, to produce good coffee, it takes, years. And when we are talking about processing coffee, it takes more than 7 months. Where this initial money comes for the farmers, because farmers daily facing, of course, life expenses. So this is about the financing.
Thank you, Pak Reza. Now I will move to Ambassador Chungba. Ambassador, you mentioned that that 43% of the orang Perancis are ready to pay more with the quality coffee. Do you think that Indonesia has what it takes to export more with the quality coffee to Europe in general?
Well, yes, I think, of course, the potential is huge. The problem is to be known. The Indonesian coffee is not known enough. So I think the way to go is to work particularly on those protection of geographical indication, which will be a very good way to make the publicity of the coffee. It's easier to describe a coffee which is rooted in a certain part of the country, which have a certain taste. And my good friend was talking about the problem of the little farmers. It's also something which can be used in the publicity, in the communication, to explain that this coffee is made by more small farmers, and that by buying it, you buy a good coffee, which is helping poor people, or not poor people, but small farmers. So I think you have a huge a huge road to do that, but you have to communicate more. The French people do not know enough about Indonesian coffee. So I think that's the main thing to do. And the fact that you're going to have more and more geographical origin protected is a very good way forward.
Thank you, Pak Dubes. There is 2 questions in our chat box from Ms. Ratri. The question is to Ambassador Chongba and Mr. Giovanni. The question is, what about the qualified means? Is that about the certificate to enter market there, or is there any other requirements that the Indonesian exporter needs to enter the European market? Dubes, please.
Well, for those very technical questions, I don't have myself the answer, but we have our economic service and Business France, and all the people interested, the business people interested can contact the French embassy, and we will give all the details. But maybe my Italian colleague will be able to do that, because for the entry in Europe, it's the same in France or Italy.
Mr. Brigiori, please.
Yes, as I mentioned before in my presentation, of course, for coffee coming from non-European countries into the European Union, there are some legal requirements to be observed, which are, as I said, mostly sanitary rules and also rules about labeling and packaging. These are basically technical issues. Of course, then there are associations in every European country that certify the quality of certain products, and this could be probably a way that, or at least a part of the marketing and communication campaign that Ambassador Chambar was suggesting, that could really prove useful to Indonesian exporters. It is true that right now Indonesian coffee is only known by the real connoisseurs and not so much by the general public. Indonesia needs to make its coffee more well known and to aggressively address the European markets with a very effective marketing strategy. Of course, then you need partners to operate with. And in Italy, we have some very large importers of coffee, of green coffee beans. And Indonesian producers and operators can easily get in touch with them using the services of the Italian trade agency. It's a company that has a mission to stimulate trade between Italy and the rest of the world. They have an office here in Jakarta, and they are basically connected to the embassy. And through them, the Indonesian operators can get in touch with Italian counterparts that might facilitate the increase of Indonesian exports to Italy, especially right now in a phase in which Vietnam has had a decrease in production, and so Indonesia could take advantage of this situation as the bulk of Indonesian production is Robusta. I know that they are now developing also Arabica, but being in Vietnam the major producer of Robusta, Indonesia can probably find itself at a competitive advantage right now because of their production problems.
Thank you, Pak Brignone. I want to follow up with the second questions. You touched upon a little bit earlier about this. The second question is from Mr. Reza Novkaf Coffee. It's related to the how to get buyer. The question is, will there be a plan from European embassies here in Jakarta, be it from French embassy or from the Italian embassy, to help doing some sort of the matchmaking business meeting between the Indonesian producer with the business people from Italy or from France?
Well, it's very easy, and I think my Italian colleague will have the same answer. You contact our trade mission. We have a special bureau called Business France, who is doing the matchmaking on both sides. So it's quite easy.
Pak Brignone, mau menambahkan, please?
On my side, of course, I agree with Ambassador Shambar, and maybe something else that we could do, I mean, using also the structure of the EU delegation to Indonesia, if the relevant industry associations of Indonesia come to us with a detailed program, we could maybe organize an event that puts together several European countries and, of course, the Indonesian counterparts in order to create these kind of business opportunities. Of course, the pandemic has made this very difficult in the last year and a half to organize events in presence. I mean, the virtual events are not the same thing, especially when you're talking about product promotion. It is better if you can get people to meet and discuss face to face. But this is maybe something that we could work on for maybe in next year. I think it could be interesting, and it could be probably shared by colleagues of other European countries as well.
Pak Dubes, Mr. Brignone, you mentioned a lot about every aspects of exporting and also the life, the coffee in your countries. I got questions from our YouTube viewer related to the strategy that is needed for the Indonesian exporter to export the specialty and single origin coffee to Europe. This is a question from Mr. Mustajab. Do you have any ideas on that?
Well, communication. You have to be known as a country which is producing particularly good coffee from protected origin. I think it's a question of communication. You have the product, so you have half of the task is done. But now another very important task, because it's no use to have a good product if nobody knows about it. That's quite simple. So it's communication, putting together some your resources by the product producers and going to Europe and showing your products.
Yeah, I think Indonesian embassies in European countries can play a pivotal role in helping the Indonesian coffee industry penetrate these markets. Of course, they're going to need resources. I mean, resources that should come from the government, but also maybe from the private sector, because you do not improvise a marketing strategy. But of course, I think your diplomatic missions could be instrumental in disseminating the quality and also the branding of Indonesian coffees throughout Europe.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Pak Giovanni. I see now from the screen that one participant wants to directly give some questions. Miss Nurmaida. The screen is yours. Ms. Nurmaida, I give the screens for you now to extend your questions to all the panelists. Okay, while waiting for questions from Ibu Nurmaida, there is one question also from the participants written to us. Question for Ambassador Chongba. Some of Indonesian companies have already using blockchain for traceability. Do you think that this will make a smooth access market to European countries?
Sorry, I tidak mengerti. What do you mean by blockchain? Open your mic.
Sorry. The question is, Indonesian companies nowadays have already using blockchain for traceability. Do you think that this will make a smooth access market for European countries?
Yeah, well, everything that's boosting traceability is good. That's what the CIRAD is doing in Kintamani. It's very important. And it's the way forward to show that the coffee is not only good, but traceable and sustainable.
Giovanni, do you have any additional information?
I think it's definitely the way to go. Nowadays in Europe, but also in other parts of the world, I think consumers have become more self-conscious about the importance of having a global agriculture that is sustainable, and and also that can give guarantees in terms of the quality and safety of the products that we consume. So anything that can help this traceability is more than welcome. And this is actually something that probably in the Indonesians, as they are very young population and very technologically inclined, could maybe become pioneers in this sector. And I think these kind of methods could apply not only to the coffee sectors, but to other agricultural sectors. I'm thinking of palm oil, for example, which is where the problem of sustainability and traceability is also quite preeminent.
Okay. Yes, Ambassador.
Please don't talk about palm oil. We had such a lovely morning.
Okay, we are concentrating on coffee at the moment, Pak Dubes. Pak Dubes and also Pak Giovanni, we have been talking about the exporting Indonesian product to Europe. I will ask a different part of the business now. You've been here in Indonesia for a couple of years. What is your observations about the Indonesia's coffee market, coffee culture, and also coffee addictability in terms of supporting the relations between the two countries, Pak?
I think the coffee market in Indonesia is different from the one in Europe. We have reached a level in Europe where the demand on cafe is more elaborate because we want to have specialty coffees, sustainable coffees, and all that, which is in Indonesia the case for a limited part of the people. So I think, but I'm not a specialist of the coffee market. The market is a bit different, and also the difference is that you approach the market differently because you are producers and consumer at the same time. So I think those are two different kind of markets, but what unites us is the love for coffee, which is I think more or less the same here and in Europe.
Yes, on my side, of course, I mean, Italians are very strict about the way they drink their coffee. I mean, we, as I said before, we have this culture of espresso, and the way we drink it is probably different from the way it's drunk in other places in the world, and especially also in Indonesia. The way it's prepared and the way it's roasted, and probably we need to bridge that gap. The important thing is that maybe if Indonesian coffee is prepared the Italian way, and then it can be appreciated more by the Italian public. But this is basically what happens, because at the end of the day, I mean, we do import from Indonesia mostly green beans, not so much the already toasted coffee, either in grains or in powder. And I'm not even sure that Indonesian producers are interested in this kind of market. They're probably more interested in exporting bulk coffee to European countries. In any case, of course, I mean, an additional way of penetrating the Italian market would be to maybe toast the Indonesian coffee the same ways, and maybe experiment also with the various methods with which coffee is prepared in Italy.
Thank you, Pak Giovanni. I was told by my colleagues that we are approaching the end of the sessions, and with this, I have one. With this, if I may, I will then, as I mentioned earlier, that we will be reaching the closing session, and I will start with Mr. Reza Fabianus to give 1 minute, 2 minutes closing remarks for the sessions, and then followed by Mr. Bignoni, and then closed by Ambassador Chombat. Please, Mr. Reza.
Thank you. From my side is we are keep going with the GI tracing origin project, which is we are happy that we met Shirad as the initiator for the next 3 years, and for the Italian market we are keep going because mostly in Bali, yes, as Mr. Giovanni stated, that specific way of reaching the Italian market, because Italy has a long way of to drink the coffee, to roast the coffee, and also what we are doing is to get in touch with the many traders and then the GI association farmers across Indonesia, And we're also hoping that with this kind of discussion, we can even get more and more vision together, because I think the big homework, as it is mentioned earlier, that we need to proclaim that to the world that Indonesia is the Coffee Republic. Thank you.
Pak Brignoni, silakan. You still.
Yeah, that's a closing remark. I mean, I think there is huge potential for an increased trade between Europe and Indonesia in the field of coffee. The demand is going to grow. Okay, right now probably we are a bit in a stagnant situation because of the world conditions, but the demand for coffee has always been very high in Europe, and especially the demand for specialty coffee is destined to grow much higher. And in this respect, Indonesia has a great potential. For example, there might be ways to promote some specific varieties, maybe by using campaigns that adapt these varieties to the European brewing methods. I think that with a concerted effort between the Indonesian authorities and the European institutions, we could create the conditions for more favorable market access for Indonesian food products in general, and specifically coffee. In this respect, I believe that when finally the CEPA negotiations will be concluded, this could really pave the way for an increase in the trade also of this commodity.
Terima kasih Pak Brignoni. Pak Dubes, silakan.
Well, first, thank you very much for organizing this seminar. And what I can say is that France will continue to support strongly Indonesia in terms of reinforcing this question of geographical indication, protected geographical indication, because we think it's the way forward. The way forward economically for Indonesia to extend its share of coffee selling, and also because it's a sustainable process, and it's a process which is benefiting to small farmers. So France will continue to help.
Thank you, Pak Dubes, Pak Brignoni, and Pak Reza. With this, I thank all the participants as well for participating in this webinar. A lot of information has been shared, and now our task to plan the actions to improve the relations in terms of our bilateral relations in the more specific ways on the export, and also the trade relations between Indonesia and Europe. With this, I move the screen to our colleague, Mr. Hermanus, for the preparation of the concluding remarks. Pak Hermanus, silakan.
Thank you, Pak Aula. Distinguished speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Pak Bimo Aryawan to deliver the concluding remarks. Pak Bimo, please take the screen.
Thank you very much, Pak Hermanus. Thank you, Ambassador Shampar, Chargé d'Affaires, Mr. Brignoni, and Mr. Reza, for your enlightening presentation. And would like to make a conclude for all that you have already presented. I think the Indonesian coffee itself, as you mentioned, Mr. Ambassador, that the coffee more important than oil, and also 3.4 kilogram per year per person drinking coffee in Europe. That means a still big market for Indonesian coffee to penetrate to Europe, especially in France as well. And also you mentioned about e-commerce. I think about the e-commerce is very important for market grow fastly during the COVID-19. So I think the Indonesian coffee player or exporter can seek or can see about this opportunity by having cooperation with e-commerce in Europe itself, and also as a French consumer, as you mentioned, Your Excellency, about the French consumer enjoy coffee by having a high quality coffee and coffee market and sustainable coffee market. I think Indonesia will try to fulfill the consumer French market, especially in coffee. And for what do you call it? For Mr. Chargé d'Affaires, Mr. Bignoni, but you mentioned about the 90% drink imported coffee in Italy, and also no national produce coffee in Italy. So I think Indonesian coffee still have a potential market to penetrate in Italy, especially in EU. And also by having the Indonesian coffee can penetrate to Italian market. I think, as you mentioned, if I'm not, if I may, if my note is mentioned about the requirement for exporting to the European Union, that should be have EU sanitary and safety requirement, and also EU labeling rules, which is the name under which the product is sold. And also about, if I'm not mistaken, list of ingredients of the coffee. That's the ingredient of coffee should be clearly appeared in the packaging, and also the date of expire of the coffee itself, and also place of origin of or governance which the coffee is produced, and also about the special condition for storage or use for the coffee. And about the Pak Reza, Pak Fabianus mentioned about the kopi. Coffee is about the, you mentioned about the entering sustainable coffee business and on trust and transparent traceable. That's, we agree about that one. And also we are still a little bit concerned about, as you mentioned, on how about the Indonesian coffee farmers. What did the Indonesian coffee farmers the opportunity or the profit or the margin for this one for the exporting coffee. And also you mentioned about what do you call that? No poverty, gender equity, and recent work and economic growth, and responsible consumption and production, and reduce inequality. So I think that's we and conclude. I think the Indonesian coffee still have a what do you call that, market or to penetrate to European Union as well. I think that's my conclusion, Mr. Hermanus. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pak Bimo. Excellencies, distinguished speakers and participants, we are almost reaching the closing. But before that, we kindly invite all speakers and all participants to open the video so that we have a photo session before we conclude the event.
Thank you, Pak Hermanus.
Yes, please.
Yes, can everybody open their video so we can take pictures? I will take the pictures 3 times. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Boni.
We
would like to thank to all our distinguished speakers, to all participants for your enthusiasm and active participation in today's talk. We are sincerely hopeful that presentation and sharing by our distinguished speakers today encourage us all, particularly coffee exporters and business communities, to increase and explore new cooperation with partners and potential partners in Europe. That being said, we have now concluded the Ambassador's Talk, European Coffee Market Potentials. We wish you all good health and see you again in another event. Thank you.
Bravo. Bye-bye.
Bravo.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Ambassador.
you,
Good
Pak
job.
Dubes.
Thank you so much.
Kasih.
Teman-teman.
Thank you,
Bang
Pak.
Heri,
Terima kasih banyak.
Paula, Mas Boni,
Kasih, Pak Dir.
Mas Bimo, Mbak Amelia, ya very good ya. Selamat ya, Mas Reza.
Terima kasih Pak Dir.
Terima kasih.
Pak Dir. Terima kasih
Thank you.
Terima kasih para peserta.
Giovanni, grazie mille.
Sama-sama.
Terima kasih Pak Dir.
Terima
Mas,
kasih Pak Reza.
Terima kasih
Terima
teman-teman
kasih
semua.
semuanya.
Mas Reza, terima kasih.
salam dari Bali.
Pak Pris, terima
Terima
kasih.
kasih Pak.
Mas Dubas Cilman, Pak Rizal Jani,
Terima kasih, Bos.
terima kasih.
Pak Hermanus.
Agunan di Mimika, terima kasih.
Terima kasih Pak Reza.
Mohon izin live duluan nih Bapak Ibu sekalian. Terima kasih.
Baik,
Terima kasih
Silakan, Pak
Bapak
Sigit.
telah berpartisipasi.
Aduh.